Good evening, everybody. I want to point out again that it's a lot of the things that we discuss in the paranormal are a little controversial from time to time, and some people have some very strong feelings. I would like everybody to remain broad-minded and tolerant of each other, and see if we can't get along and understand and maybe learn something from each other. It's good to be able to learn things from each other, and that's the main thing. We want to do that. I'd like to go ahead and start by sharing my screen. If you'll give me just a second here, we will get started on, we're talking about how to go about collecting EVPs. All right, first off, let's talk about what an EVP is. An EVP stands for Electronic Voice Phenomenon. These are voices that are recorded many times and are not heard by the human ear. Sometimes I'll get to it here in just a minute. Sometimes they need to be slowed down, sped up, or even played in reverse to understand what happened. I'm going to have some samples of some EVPs here to share with you in just a few minutes. So anyway, white noise sometimes helps in capturing EVPs. A lot of people believe that white noise in the background helps the entities pull energy out and that allows them to generate a noise that we can capture and record. Most people assume that these voices are coming from people who have passed on. However, there is a possibility, and a very real one, that this might be from people speaking to us from another dimension. And as we're getting into some of these other things like Bigfoot and some other things, we're finding that more and more people are starting to believe that we're having interdimensional activities of different kinds. So we've got to admit that some of these may be interdimensional. Some EVPs can be recorded using a spirit box. And that's what was done last night on the case we were on, and I'll play part of it for you here at the end of this session. We can capture EVPs with your cell phone. So the cell phone in your hand, you can mash record and go after it. Now in the video I'm going to show you tonight, Joe was actually playing a ghost radio on his cell phone, and it had a recorder on it. I've never used that app, but it was interesting. It was my first experience with it, and so I'm sharing that with you. I don't know. I might try it later tonight or tomorrow or a little later this week, see how it goes. I'm interested in learning more about different apps. I have about 6 on my phone, as you know in the video that I posted on using your cell phone for ghost hunts. EVPs can be caught with a video recorder, and in this case, you're going to see the EVP caught. Also, I had a video recorder going, and it recorded the information. On this video, I'd like to point out that I'm a good distance. The video camera is a good distance away from where we're collecting the EVPs. I ran into some problems holding the Zoom recorder in my hand. It was never ever longer than arm's length away from me during the recording because I had it in my hand. And when Joe and I are talking, I held it to my mouth to do some talking. I held it to Joe's mouth so I could record his voice so we could differentiate later when I hear voices, what if it was one of us speaking. Well, even though we weren't very far and it was arm's length, the recording level dropped very significantly. Now, when I play it back to you, I'm going to play it back to you on Adobe Audition. And I've had to take, after we moved it arm's length away, I've had to increase the amplitude of that recording a great deal in order for you to even hear it, or you wouldn't hear it at all. EVPs can be caught using a microphone on your computer. Your computer has a headset and a microphone button on it, and a lot of times we used to actually hook a microphone up to the laptop and capture EVPs that way. That's the way you can do it also. Some people believe that some of the voices captured are electromagnetic in nature, which may explain why we can't hear them with our ear when we're trying to capture these things. I think that is something that's interesting, and also it kind of plays in with the white noise generators and the white noise sounds, that it takes a few seconds for them to be able to respond to you, and they have to pull some power and some energy together. So that might be an electromagnetic pulse, which is transferred directly to your recorder or your microphone and recorded, and explains why we might not be able to hear it, because it's not an actual sound wave. Okay, are there any questions out there tonight? Not hearing any, I will continue. For your audio recordings, you of course want to have fresh batteries in, and I always test my batteries in my devices before I start. And of course, the Zoom H4n recorder will tell you if your power is getting low, and it'll warn you that it's going to go out, so you can change your batteries and you don't lose your recording. A lot of the audio recorders have a way that you can tie in to a USB port right here on the side, and that way you can download your audio files. Now, this particular one, the Zoom H4n, happens to have a little flap here on the side that you can see right here, and it actually takes an SD card, and so I can actually pull the SD card right out of the H4 and transfer it to a card reader, which makes this kind of handy in a way, and a lot easier than going through and trying to find the files on here. And it's a very instant type transfer. Now, there are some recorders, like if you go to a reel-to-reel type tape recorder, when you're trying to transfer the file, you have to play the file from start to finish all the way through to get the transfer to go through. So however long you record is how long it takes to transfer that file. It's not instant. There are people, talking about tape recorders, there are people that are into vinyl. They don't want to use anything but tape. Again, going back to the electromagnetic possibility, it may be that the tape picks up better than a electronic. Now then again, if it's electronic pulse, it may be that the digital recorders work better. So I think experimentation and sharing of information on our part as ghost hunters is important, so that we can identify whether we should be using tape or not. Tape's getting real hard to find. I've still got one package of tape left, and that's it for my tape recorders, and I haven't been trying to use them. And you should always use fresh tape when you do, because a lot of times noises from previous recordings, if you use it over and over again, will bleed through. Okay, headphones for listening. A lot of times that if you're out and you're doing EVPs and you get a voice that you're not going to hear or you don't hear, these recorders have a spot where you can plug a headset in and you can listen. I actually have a little pod mechanism where I can tune in 5 or 6 headsets so that the whole team can sit and listen as we're sitting there collecting our EVPs. So that might be something that you want to get for your team also. Or, if you've got company over, maybe some evening and you're going to collect EVPs for fun and you're going to try it out for yourselves, you might want to have multiple headsets and be able to plug it in and do that. Okay, EVP Maker software for laptops. Now, I always do audit my recordings with a laptop, and I like Adobe Audition. That's what I normally use. Now, I have used Audacity. I used to use Audacity all the time. It's a free software. It doesn't cost you money. Adobe Audition costs money. You might also use WavePad or GoldWave. Those are still available. They still have free versions available. I pay for the Adobe Audition because it's got more options to it. And I already use the Adobe Premiere Pro for editing my video, and the commands are all similar. So once you know one package, you kind of know the other package too. All right, we have different cases for EVPs. We have a Class A EVP, which is one that's easy to understand. It's very clear. And some of you that have been on the team for a while might recall one of the early EVPs that caused us to start cleaning up cemeteries. And that was the little girl that said, "Help me." And so we got that recording. We didn't hear it while we were there. We played it as a team, and we heard it, and everybody agreed that we should go back to that cemetery and try to find out what that little girl wanted. We carried some toys back, and we left them on her grave after we found her grave, and we cleaned up around her grave. The Class B type of EVPs, these are a little harder to understand. Different reviewers may hear different words. Sometimes words are similar and in the sounding, and so a lot of times the person sitting next to me may hear a word that's different than the word I hear. But anyway, that's a Class B when you're unsure or not quite as sure. The Class C is the hardest to understand, and it can be whispers, and sometimes you have to play it back a number of times and actually try to modify it a bit to be able to bring up the quality of it so that you can understand what's really going on. The Class D EVP can't be understood at all. It's really, you got a response, but you don't know what it is. And so it's not anything that you can really use except that you know you've got responses. And you're going to see some of these, and the responses we got last night were not totally audible. EVP procedures, how to go about doing EVPs. We want to introduce ourselves. That's the part of the video I'm going to start showing you when we get through this. It's where I introduce myself and I introduce Joe. We allow ourselves to be, voices to be recorded. Not only that, but if you record everybody on the team's voice, then you know who all was available there at the time that you did it and who the witnesses are to the event. If you should have to call upon them, say, hey, I was there at this EVP session and that's what I heard. So we have each team member speak their name for the recording so that the person that's doing the reviewing can identify the person that, if you hear voices later in the recording. Ask your guest, that are talking about our guest being the person that we're trying to record, the person we're trying to get EVPs off of. And so that would be what we consider our guests. Would they like to talk with us? And we reassure them that no harm's going to come to them. We're not there to hurt them, that we want to communicate and we're trying to understand what's going on. Then we're going to tell them how to do it. Now, a lot of times, some of these entities that we're talking to have never seen a recorder, don't know what a recorder is. They're from a different time frame. So what we need to do in that case is to tell them about the recorder a little bit, tell them that these are microphones, this is where their voices will be recorded, and that if they can, get as close to the mic as they can, and to go ahead and speak as loud as they can, because they may have to shout in order for it to pick up on the machine and for us to record it. Then we start asking our questions. We wait an interval of 10 seconds to ask the next question. The reason for that is we don't want to be asking a question before they've had a chance to answer, because then our voice covers up whatever they're trying to say, and then we can't pull ourselves out of it to hear what they're trying to say to us. Any noises that you hear in the background, you want to make a note, and that's what you say. Note, dog barking. Note, somebody at the door. Note, car passed by. Note, so-and-so speaking. Note, Sharon dropped a pen or a ballpoint on the floor. Any of these noises, because when you're sitting and listening and reviewing this tape, it takes a long time, and you play things over and over and over again to try to decipher just what it is you just heard and whether it was significant or not. You save a tremendous amount of time by making these notes. I'll spend as much as 30 minutes or so trying to figure out what the noise was. You always want to talk in a normal tone of voice and do not whisper. Whisper kind of makes you think, it may be something, trying to talk there, so you tune into the whisper. If you talk in a normal voice, I'm going to know who it is because I've got your voice recorded, and that way I can rule you out. And you save my time as an editor, or our editor's time, whoever is reviewing the tape or the recording. You save their time by not whispering. So remember, don't whisper. We always want to be respectful and courteous to the people that we're talking to. We don't want to provoke anyone, and we want to, I don't even know why I have the software to use at this point here. I need to take that out. I thought I had edited it, and I seem to have an older copy of my program here. I see that proceeds is also misspelled up here, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to fix it right now. Procedures. Okay, and I had taken this out earlier, and I'm going to take it out right now and save this when I get through. Okay, we're ready for the next slide. Here, so I don't know about y'all, but when I sit down and start asking questions, sometimes I go totally blank. I can't figure out what to say, and questions don't come to me easily. So we generated a list a long time ago that gives us, and you can print this out if you want. I can post it on the site, and you can print it out so you can carry it with you when you're doing EVPs. But here's some of the questions that are typical. This is food for thought. What is your name? What is in my right front pocket? A lot of times when you're talking to an entity, you can ask them, what's in my right front pocket, because then you can tell if they're really there. A lot of these entities will really know what's in your pocket. They can tell you. It's crazy, but it's happened. Okay, what day is this? A lot of times we're trying to find out what day it is, what year it is, etc., so that we're getting in their time frame. They may be living in 1865 at Civil War time or something. So if we can ask some questions to try to identify the time frame they're in, or when they think or where they think they are in time-wise, this helps us to go back and do research so we can identify who this entity might happen to be. What are you seeking? By finding out what they're seeking, we can kind of find out why they're still here, if they're willing to tell us. Will you show us a sign of your presence? That's always a good one. A lot of times it happens on the recording that you probably can't get to on YouTube, that I have in a special directory, was when I did a thing for Channel 11 News, and it was Sherry Williams, I believe it was, for Channel 11, where we went to Huntsville and we did the Black Jesus statue was moving and stuff, that they were reporting it. And after a certain point, I had to ask it to show us a sign of your presence, and 7 seconds later, a tree branch broke. So those are things that we can ask. Can you move this glass? If we have a glass on the table or a cup, can they move it? Some spirits can generate enough energy to move things. So that's a good question to ask. Where did you live? Some of the questions that we're going to be asking we try to prompt them to tell us a little bit about themselves. Some people like to talk about themselves, and so if we can go along those lines, it helps. What is your age? Do you know that you have died? A lot of times these entities do not even know they're dead. And so I would be real careful with that particular question, because they may not respond favorably to it if they figure out that that's what's really happened to them, what is wrong. If we're in somebody's house, did you live here? Did you work here? Did you die here? How did you die? Do you know that you have died? When did you die? That's a good one, because if we're trying to identify the person, we can go back through the death records and see who died on a certain date. We can help verify who it might be. What was your favorite drink, or your favorite book, or your favorite food? They like to talk about these things, and sometimes these are real good questions to ask. And also, when you're trying to identify them, you might find out, hey, if they say they like to drink, you might find out they were a drunk, or if they have a favorite book, maybe they wrote a book. But these are all things that will add to the validation of these people being real, having lived, and giving us a date range that we can identify them. Why have you remained here? Would you like to move on? In general, I know of a lot of spirit rescue people that do not like to move spirits on. If they don't want to be moved on, they just leave them alone. Now, if they are just lost and want to go to the light, those spirit rescuers actually do help them get to the light and make their transition then on to heaven. What was your occupation or trade? Can you make a noise for me? Can you talk to me? Is it all right that we are here? Would you please talk to us? Would you like us to stay? Would you like us to go? How close are you? That was a really good one time for me. How close are you? And this entity whispered right in my ear, close, close. And I tell you what, the hair on my neck stood up and I jerked, and the person next to me actually heard it too, and we actually caught it on the recorder, but it was in my ear, right in my ear. They were that close, and it was scary. It scared the bejesus out of me. I had never had that happen before. Can you show yourself? A lot of times, if we're trying to take pictures, we can ask them, can you show yourself? Will you show yourself for us and take a picture? And of course, during your EVP session, you can ask them to show themselves and start taking some pictures, or some of the team can take some pictures. Remember, when you hear the camera click, no, camera click, no, camera going off, so that noise is not something that we look at. Are you male? Are you female? How old are you? What year were you born? And you know the reason why we ask that question. We're trying to identify and verify them. Where were you born? How are you doing today? Cigar Joe is real good about wandering through the cemeteries and coming to the headstones and saying, Mr. Jones, how are you today? I hope you're having a great day. We're out here cleaning up the cemetery. And he goes on like that, and then he starts to ask questions. So he tries to warm them up and get them ready and primed just so that they're willing to talk to us. Will you pose for a picture for us? A lot of times they will not show themselves, and they're not happy that we're taking pictures unless we try to get permission from them. Is it okay if I get, just being courteous to them? And a lot of times they will materialize then and show themselves so we can get a photograph. It's happened a number of times for us. How do you feel? What color are your eyes? What is your favorite color? Can you move the needle on our EMF meter? What was your favorite toy? Especially if we're talking to a child, some of the children will tell us what their favorite toys were. Now we have to study a little bit of history so we know what some of the different types of toys were in history, or we won't know what they're talking about. I was recently at a touch table at the St. Center Battleground Monument where they had some of the toys that the children played with in pioneer days. And actually, we had variations of them when I was a child, but we didn't have that particular toy. And so it would help us when we're trying to communicate with some of these spirits to know what they're talking about when they say something. So we need to learn the names of some of these toys and some of the things that existed. What was your favorite hobby? Again, this tells us more about the person that we might be able to validate later. What color is your hair? Again, we can validate that later. What year is it? Helpful, very helpful. Are you married? Are you a soldier? Are you a mother? Are you a father? How many children do you have? How many grandchildren do you have? These are all things that people like to talk about, and especially grandparents. If you can get them to talk about the children and stuff, then a lot of times you can open the door and start to communicate with these people. Do you like the view here at the cemetery where you're buried? We do that while we're out in the cemeteries. How long have you resided here? Does the weather determine if you will talk to us or not? Are you willing to talk to us and pose for our pictures in return for cleaning up this cemetery, this place? Do you feel forgotten here? Are you warm? Are you cold? We've had a couple in DC that they're hot or they're cold or something, so this might be something that they're willing to share with us and start a response if we can ask these questions. Is there anything we can do for you? This allows them to openly talk about something that they might have concerns about or would like to have done. So anyway, this is going really fast. Now, here are some of the recorders. Of course, I have in that one picture you recognize now is the Zoom H4n. Also, the top three are some of my old Olympus recorders. I used to use a lot of Olympus recorders. I actually have some older than those. And also down below you see three of the Sonys that we've used in the past. I was on a podcast a couple of days ago, and they were talking about some of the Panasonic recorders, and I started going through my recorders to see if I had any, because I know I had some Panasonic somewhere. But anyway, some of the 1978, 79 model Panasonics now are antique models, and some of the ghost hunters are really preferring them, and they're doing anything they can to get these old Panasonic recorders. They are paying $3,000 to $4,000 for a recorder we paid $20 for back in the 70s. So as incredible as it seems, some of these recorders are getting quite valuable. And who knows, maybe the reel-to-reels and some of the tape recorders are actually going to make a comeback. Who knows? Because, as we learn more about this, we may find that that's a better media. Here's some of the spirit boxes that I have. The three off to the right-hand side are Radio Shack. They're Radio Shack hacks. I actually made one of those myself from instructions, but two of them were purchased, and actually the third one is an ITC PSB7. They are now in the Model 11. That ITC research device is now in the Model 11, but I haven't upgraded, and I don't know, I'm not happy with some of the stories I'm hearing. When I listen to an 11, I don't like the sounds that it makes, or I don't want to work with it. I've got some internet links for you here that are tied to the paranormal. One is the Paranormal Authority. You might want to try that for some information. There are some academic publications division of perceptual studies at Virginia Education, the University of Virginia. Paranormal Phenomenon at Bridgegate State University. Association of Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena. The Paranormal Cafe. The Paranormal Forum, and a Facebook Ghost Research Society, and the Ghost Research Society. There are different locations. One is a regular forum that you can join at www. Ghost Research Society, and the other is a Facebook page. Some internet EVP groups would be United Paranormal International NING.com. Now this is an old site. It had come down. They're in the process of rebuilding it. It's not up and functional today or tomorrow, but in the coming weeks it will be functional again. SpiritRescue.name is still functioning. It's been up for almost 20 years. MySpace GAC, official members only group, is there for people that are member of the ghosts hunting group that Zach started. There's www.ghosttech.com. So those are some of the internet groups. There are others. There are Facebook groups and some others that I haven't listed, but we can work on this as we grow. And then again, there are some internet groups, and some of those are the same as the others. Some of the magazines, some of the best magazines, I think, are gone now. They don't make them anymore. I liked Haunted Times. I liked Phantom Magazine, but they're not in business. There is Fate Magazine, that's available. Haunted Magazine, which is a Facebook magazine. And one of our guests who was recently on, Joshua Chairs, has Dark Matter News on Facebook. So anyway, we'd like to promote him if you can. If you're interested in looking, you might check out Dark Matter News and see if there's any information there you're interested in. There are some internet radio links that you might want to follow and find out more about. Nocturnal Frequency Radio is on YouTube. You also might want to follow Coast to Coast. It's supposed to be the best paranormal news show ever, and it has been on forever. And it's started under Art Bell, and it's been up for many, many years. It's decades old. So those are some of the places that you might want to go. So I'm going to stop the presentation, and we're going to I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to cut it off here. I can add the video in my editing. Now, it'll save me a lot of time when this thing starts, that if we hear a noise like a dog barks, we say, nope, dog bark, because I'll play it over and play it until I figure out what it is. And if we make a note on the tape so it tells me what it is, I can blow right on through it instead of spending 15, 20 minutes there.
Are you here with us? You want to answer some questions? I don't know if you hear us.
Okay, it's a wave file, yes, and start recording. Okay, this is John. It's Saturday night, July the 22nd, and the time?
9:59 p.m.
9:59 p.m. And I'm John, this is
Joe Denton.
okay. That way I have a voice to go by too, so.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hit record.
Go ahead.
You want to answer some questions for us this evening? Are you here? Usually let me know when he enters the room.
We're not going to hurt you if you want to talk to us. We'd just like to talk with you. You can come over to one of the devices close to us, speak as loud as you can into that device. We may not be able to hear you with our human ears, but we might be able to hear you when we play the recording back. When we ask you questions, it'll be about 10 seconds before we ask again to give you time to muster the energy and to answer.
He's here. Go ahead and ask him some questions.
How old are you?
How old are you?
Did you ever live? Were you a living person?
Were you ever a living person?
No, motorcycle. What do you want?
What do you want? What is your purpose here?
Do you know that you're not wanted here?
I don't know why you're shy in front of some people and not in front of others, but did you know that you are not wanted here at this residence?
Will you leave if we ask you to?
My friend asked a question. He said, will you leave?
Tell us why you're here.
Go ahead, tell us why you're here. Why are you here? No answer?